Hi, I'm Paula Doyle, and today I'm going to show you how I made my beautiful star ravioli bag. And in particular, I'm going to show you how I made the star ravioli block. So Mark's going to come around with the camera now so you can see what I'm doing here in front of me. So as with all ravioli quilts, what you do is you start with a plain piece of denim. It's a 6 by 6 inch rotary cut square of denim. I also have a 4 3/4 inch square of wadding, and that can be leftover wadding, and then a 6 by 6 inch square of a backing fabric. In this case, it's a heavyweight calico. So what I'm going to do, the way I start with a template, and I have a star shaped template here. And what I do is I trace around the template onto freezer paper using a pencil, and then I cut the freezer paper apart using scissors, and then I cut the stars out so that, there we go, I have some cut out stars now. And what I'm going to do is I am going to iron, oops, sorry about that. I'm going to iron one of these stars onto a square of denim like that. So I have my iron over here, and I'm just going to press it so that it adheres. And here I have my denim with a star on it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of these blunt brushes right here to start the painting. And I'm using some fabric paint. In this case, it's PBO Centicolor opaque paint, and I'm using white. So I have a little bit in this lid here, and I'm just going to put my brush in it, and I'm just going to paint around the edges of the freezer paper template. Just like that. So you get the idea here of what I'm doing. And here's what the star should look like after you finish painting out around it with a brush. After that, I'm going to use another tool, and this is a stylus. It's an embossing stylus, and it has a nice big fat round end right here that I'm going to use to make the dots. So I'm going to, again, go into my paint and just use the stylus to create some dots of paint emanating from the star, so that what you have at the end is this. It's a block that's been painted not only with white paint, but also with gold paint, just a few dots of that, and dots of the silver paint. But this is my nearly finished block now, my nearly finished block top, I should say. And what I'm going to do next is to peel that freezer paper off And that's what the star block looks like. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that with my iron until it's and for probably about, oh, I don't know, a count of 10 or so on either side. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ravioli template. This is my ravioli template here to mark my denim square. So I'm going to mark around in the slots of the ruler. I'm not going to mark the center square because that we've already taken care of with the star applique. And then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to mark the reverse side of the denim too. There we are. The next thing I'm going to do is grab myself my glue stick and I'm going to just make about 5 dots on the back of the block. And I'm going to grab my square of wadding. Here we go. And I'm going to put it within that. And that is just, it's going to be slightly smaller than your marked lines because you want that piece of wadding to sit nice and inside. Then you're going to take the piece of backing, and that is going to be the sandwich for your quilt block. And what you're going to do next is you're going to, so that's another block that I've made that's ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some mini clips and clip the sandwich together. So that's the back side and that's the front side. And then I'm going to stitch around this line right here. First of all, with a straight stitch on my machine, and then with a zigzag stitch going over the straight stitch, and finally a line of straight stitching through the center of the star. And that makes the block just about ready. The only other thing you need to do now is to trim the block up. And I'm going to do that with my ravioli ruler again. So that's that dotted line that's on your ravioli rulers. You line it up with the stitching line on all the sides of the block, and you use a rotary cutter with a pinking blade on to cut away the excess. Oh, sorry, I'm not on a rotary cutter. No wonder it's not working. Hang on just a minute. I'll just take this paint surface off because I've got my rotary cutting mat right here. So, oh, that didn't quite detach. Let me just do that again. And you take the sides, all 4 sides off, so that your finished block looks like that. And then that block is ready to go into the project. And here's a block that I did without painting, just with the star motif quilted. And that's really going to be for the bottom of the bag if you want to do it that way and you don't want to have to paint all those blocks. but I'll show you that in just a minute. So Mark's gonna move around with the camera again, and I'm gonna take this bag that's in the process of being made off. And this bag, I'm gonna make it, it's gonna be smaller than the big bag. The big bag is for all of my quilting supplies. This one's gonna be more of a shopping bag. And all I'm gonna do is attach the sides, and that will form the basis of a smaller bag. And the way that you do the way that you attach the blocks together with the project is that here I have 2 ravioli blocks. They're not star ravioli, they're regular ravioli blocks. But what you do is you take them, and you don't use pins. You simply, can you come around again? You simply use the mini clips, and then you stitch down that line right there, so that what you have is that. So again, I start with a backward, I back into the corner, and then I sew forward with a straight stitch, and then I back stitch at the end there. And that attaches the ravioli blocks. And if you're going to attach the ravioli blocks, the rows of ravioli blocks, like here I have 2 rows, what I do is I make sure that this seam allowance here is facing away from me, and the seam allowance underneath is facing towards me. And then I take one of the big clips and I simply clip that, and then I have another couple of clips, one here and one here, and I'm going to stitch again. I'm going to go back stitched and straight, and then I go over this with a straight stitch, and then I back stitch over that again, and then go to the end and back stitch again, so that what you have is a nice, that's what you have when the blocks join up. And the last thing you're going to do is you can clip these extra excess corners there, that makes it pop out a little bit. But that's how you make the body of the bag. And I'm just going to show you the bag here. What I've done is I've simply attached the waistband of some old jeans to the top of the bag, and then I've used more waistbands to make some handles for the bag, and stitch them on. So that's the finished Star Ravioli bag now. And that's it for my demonstration. Thank you very much. Don't forget your ravioli template.